on that between Trent and Elijah out front, and the guys split the defenders, and both of them got caught with their hands in the cookie jar, and Elijah came out with the foul.
Mattoon inbounds the ball out front. Cameron Thomas. Thomas with 17 of Mattoon's 22 points this evening.
Is he their leading scorer, as you said earlier?
Yes, he is. And partially blocked. A great play by Brody Whiteman. Partially blocked the shot by Smith. Brody Whiteman has it again. Kicks it right wing. Elijah Paulus for the three. No. Ball off the back of the iron. Jaden Klopp goes for the rebound. It goes to Jalen Middleton. And Mattoon brings it back up with 4 minutes to go in the final quarter here at Roy S. Anderson Gymnasium. Lincoln up comfortably, 43-11 senior for Mattoon. As Mattoon goes with a smaller lineup than what they've usually, 6'4 freshman, and Peyton Cook, a 6'3 freshman. So two freshies coming in the game, as you say, two newbies.
3 minutes to go, misses a free throw, and both freshmen kind of fumble around, and Cook comes up with the rebound there. So here we go on offense with Lincoln.
Trent Keeler into the front court. Knocked off both freshmen' hands, finally picked up by Peyton Cook. Gets it out with one of the guards. Keeler out front, Paulus, Peyton Cook, Grunder, Keeler, Grunder. Grunder looked at the three, steps inside, doesn't take it. Back out front, Peyton Cook. Cook to Paulus. Paulus nearly traveled with the basketball. Back out front, Saucy. Grunder, Keeler. Mattoon has made wholesale substitutions as well. So both coaches clear the looks. Look left side to Smith. Inside to Bergstrom. Faulkner Elliott with the three out of the corner. Off the iron and rebound Elijah Paulus with 1:40 to go. Keeler up front, Grunder. Grunder drives inside. Tried to get the pass to Tyler Saucy that was knocked out of bounds by Mattoon, and Mattoon will substitute yet again.
Always encourage that. If somebody's open, pass them the ball.
That's right. Keeler inbounds. Grunder a long three in front of the Railer bench. Off the iron. Rebound Faulkner Elliott for Mattoon. And he'll bring the ball up the floor against the Railer defense. Pierce Farmer into the game. He's got the basketball out front. Cooper Bergstrom with it. Left wing. Back out front, Faulkner Elliott. Inside Hayden Williams. Pierce Farmer with the three. No good. Rebound to Elijah Paulus. And clock is in the red. We're inside 1 minute to go here at Roy S. Anderson Gymnasium. Out front, Keeler. Keeler right wing to Paulus. Paulus to Cook in front of the Railer bench. Out front, Keeler. Railers moving the ball. Very little dribbling going on right now, Kirk, as they just simply move the ball out front against the Mattoon defense. Saucy drives down the lane, tries to get the shot off, and it looks like, nope, didn't get the foul call, gets the traveling call.
Yeah, he probably should have came up on the other side for a reverse layup, but at the end of the day, they got him for a traveling. Kind of got caught jumping in the air with nothing to do with the ball.
Bergstrom to Pierce Farmer to Elliott out in front of the Railer zone with 17 seconds to go here at Roy S. Anderson Gymnasium. Faulkner Elliott with a long three. Front of the iron, Trent Keeler will haul it in. And with 10 seconds to go, Trent Keeler will drill it up along the right sideline in front of the Railer bench. And it looks like this one is all over as the clock runs out. And the Rail Splitters are going to be victorious tonight, remain undefeated at home, and remain undefeated in the Apollo. The final score, Lincoln 68, Mattoon 22. We'll be back after this timeout with the Grau Incorporated Schneider Chiropractic postgame show. Jay Harden back here at Roy S. Anderson Gymnasium, where the Rail Splitters tonight go to 21-2 on the season. They remain undefeated in the Apollo Conference. They remain undefeated at home. The final score, Lincoln 68-22. We had a running clock in the fourth quarter. Railers were up 60-22 at the end of the third quarter, up 15-3 at the end of the first quarter. The Green Wave of Mattoon turned the ball over numerous times this evening against Lincoln's stellar defense. So the Rail Splitters go tonight to 21-2, with Quincy coming in tomorrow night for a non-conference game here at Roy S. Anderson Gymnasium. The Mattoon Green Wave were led by Cameron Thomas. Believe it or not, he had 17 of their 22 points this evening. That's right, Cameron Thomas had 17 of the 22 points for the Green Wave this evening. Scoring for the Rail Splitters, at least from the starters, looked like this. And the starters sat out the entire fourth quarter of tonight's basketball game here at Roy S. Caden Froby led the Rail Splitters with 25 points this evening, several breakaway baskets. Landon Hullinger had 9 points this evening. Will Ewald had 12 points this evening. Cameron Whiteman with 5 this evening. Dylan Singleton with 6 this evening. As the entire Railer bench saw action tonight during tonight's game, and the second and third strings, if you will played the entire fourth quarter. Again, Lincoln won tonight 68-22 here at Roy S. Anderson Gymnasium. We are going to send it back to the studio for this timeout. Come back with the rest of the Schneider Chiropractic Center Grau Incorporated post-game show and some words from head coach Neil Alexander.
Oh my God, don't even do that.
Jay Harden back here at Roy S. Anderson Gymnasium with my broadcast partner Kirk Whiteman on the Schneider Chiropractic Center Grau Incorporated postgame show. Kirk, my friend, that was classic Railer basketball defense tonight. The turnovers were just absolutely astounding, and the Railer guards really got after it with the trap tonight.
Let your defense become your offense, and when you play against teams like this, and Mattoon, just, not a lot of ball fakes, and obviously not necessarily Mattoon, but we got some pretty good players out there, and they're really active, and I think that's something that's really emphasized within the Lincoln High School basketball program is deflections and keeping what we call active hands. So you saw what happens when you keep active hands and get the ball and get some layups and free throws off fouls off layups.
We ended up having 60 points at the end of the third quarter, 68 for the end of the game. In past years, people would wonder what happened up at Lincoln that they scored that many points. But this is a different style of Railer team. They do play the defense. They turn the defense into offense. But even when they get the half-court sets, they're capable of breaking a defense down.
I think you get flow offensively. When we were in college, we talked about getting good flow. And here, with this group of kids, you have 5 players that can flat out shoot, that can flat out score, and if they're able to share the ball, you get wide open shots. If you go back and watch in Hoosiers, 5 passes before the first shot. You don't need to do that because you have great players, and if they get an open shot right away or if they get a layup, they're going to take advantage of that. And I think Coach Alexander's will embrace that a little bit with this group, as you've seen this year.
One thing coaches talk a lot about, and you hear a lot of talk, especially if you watch college broadcasts, is spacing. This team gets really good spacing on the floor. They tend not to run over each other in the offensive sets.
Very, very important, and that's one of the first things you try to teach is the understanding of spacing. You don't want to be standing next to another person on the floor. And when you have, like I said, you have kids that can all score the ball, and then you space away from the defense, you make the defense make a decision. We saw that against Chatham. You know what? We're going to take away the Froby kid. We're going to make the Singleton kid beat us. He missed his first 3 threes from the perimeter, but at the end of the game, you know what happened? He went right by him and he scored layups. Dylan comes out the next game. They don't guard him. He bangs 3 threes in a row. So spacing allows us, because we have so many people that can score out there on the floor, to create opportunities.
Now, taking your dad hat off for a minute. Taking your dad hat off for a minute. Watching this game, did you see much of anything you thought, hey, that really didn't look very good, or that's something they need to work on, or there was a breakdown there? Other than maybe isolated incidents, it looked like they played a really, really good basketball game.
It does, and when you get in games like this where it's so easy to score because you have defense to offensive transition and layups, and I don't have a stat sheet here in front of me, but what did we score? 68 points tonight, and I would safe to say that you'd have probably about 40 points that were going to the basket on layups or from the free throw line because they were getting to the basket. And to me, there's not a whole lot to work on in those situations. So they took care of what they needed to do against a team like this, and we came out on top and scored a lot of points and held them to not very many.
Really quick, as Neil Alexander, I see, is making his way across the floor. Got a seating meeting coming up, looking ahead, and maybe, I don't know if it's a little too early to start looking toward the postseason. But I think, just from what I've seen this year, we've probably positioned ourselves about as good as we can to get one of those top seeds for the regional in our subsectional.
I would hope so, and it looks like those teams in the Big 12 that we'll be seeing in the Central State 8 have kind of been beating themselves up. I mean, we only beat Danville by 12, and they're 14-12, as well as some of those Champaign schools.
Well, Neil Alexander is making his way toward the top of Roy S. Anderson Gymnasium.
Is Illinois playing tonight?
I got a tape.
Are they playing tonight?
Illinois playing? I don't know. Are they playing tonight?
I don't know.
Well, Neil Alexander, we won't tell you the score of any game. We won't even tell you the score of this game.
Okay.
Neil Alexander has joined us on the Schneider Chiropractic Grau Incorporated post-game show. And, Coach, congratulations on a good victory tonight. Kirk and I were talking. Boy, your defense played really well tonight.
Yeah, and I didn't think we were all that aggressive, but we got our hands on some basketballs and made some things happen, and we were playing against 4 sophomores out there, so tell me that tomorrow night.
You got to get some good minutes from your bench. You got to rest your starters, and you got to get some good minutes from your bench tonight.
Yeah, and the sophomores, they played really well the first game, and they played well there. So that's good for them because they're going to have to learn that they're going to have to step up and play a little bit next year. Not a little bit, probably quite a bit.
You did a lot. A lot tonight was converting, as Kirk and I talked, defense into offense. You got a lot of breakaways, a lot of turnovers, converting those baskets into offense. And then when you had to go to a half-court set, looked like you were able to break down their defense and get some pretty good shots against it.
Yeah, we just execute our basic stuff. We didn't have to get into our whole ball of tricks and everything. So, we save them for tomorrow night. The movement, we had good when they went to the man. We had good dribble drive and kick to the shooters. And, we didn't have any trouble finding a shot tonight.
And I'm always learning, Coach. And in situations like this, you guys were so active on the defensive end. and turned them over, created layups, not a lot of offense running. But at the end of the day, you go into halftime, these 30-point leads. From my perspective, what are some of the things, a point of focus that you tell these kids to work on?
Well, we want to stay structured. You could very easily go out and do different things and get away with it in games like this, but you have to keep your rotations down. You got to get the middle covered. You got to do every little thing right, and that will carry over to tomorrow night. We could have went running up and doing and been out of position and things, but you try to teach them every game's the same. So we wanted to get accomplished, and there's some things zone offense that we didn't do very well. We didn't get the ball to the baseline, and if we don't get the ball to the baseline, you're going to struggle for most times, and you got to be able to get it there to get your high-low, to get your reversals and diagonal passes out of there, because it flattens the zone out. And I think Landon, we got it there once and he had a layup, and those things there, you can kick to the corner.
They're going to be on the road for 5 straight games. It's a little unusual.
Well, we're going to have to win a regional on the road, so playing on the road will be good for us. We're an experienced team. It's just the way it falls, and you like to get people to where you got home away, and it's a lot better. And I would have rather mixed those 10 games up, our 5 at home, our 5, and mixed them up where we had them spread out a little bit. But you got to play with what you got on the schedule. But for this group, it's pretty much a veteran group that I don't think it matters whether they're playing at home or on the road, and that's good when it comes to regional time, because you're going to have to win. We may even have to beat somebody on their home court in a regional.
You brought that up. I think Kirk and I were talking. I think we've positioned ourselves about as well as we can to get viewed as one of the top seeds in the subsectional, at least in the regional that we're playing in. Don't you think so?
I think there's no question that we're the number one, and everyone else has got 10 to 12 wins, losses. It's a mess from 2 to 8, and then Rantoul's really struggling. I think the 9th spot is pretty secure, but the issue that we have is who's going to be 2. If Bloomington's 2, then we're going to Rantoul. So it determines who falls in that 2 spot is whether a regional championship instead of 1-4. All being said and done, we'd have been better off going south this year. There's a lot of dangerous teams there. The Champaign schools, Urbana's really solid. Muhammad, they I don't know what they did tonight, but they're setting pretty to where they could get a 2 seed. Now, if they get a 2 seed, they're probably going to go to Rantoul, and we're going to Bloomington.
We know you're wanting to leave to find out what happened, or at least get on your couch and watch. No, wait.
As long as everybody clears the gym before I go back across, I'll be okay.
Hey, talk a little bit about tomorrow night. It's going to be different than what it was tonight.
Well, and I told the kids tonight, and I think the Illinois game had a lot to do with what was our crowd, the electricity and things. And I really think that tomorrow night should be a great basketball game. And I think you have 2 programs with rich tradition in Illinois, and they've had some great games. I don't know, what was it, back in 1980 maybe before then, when Lincoln and Quincy were 1 and 2 in the state and squared off in the sectional championship over at Decatur Eisenhower. And it goes back a long way, and the history of it, and the Quincy Blue Devils, they're coming to Lincoln, so hopefully our fans will want to come out and see a great game tomorrow night. They're not having a what they would consider a outstanding year, but they're still 15, 16, and 7 and 8, somewhere in there. But again, they play a competition that's and they play in their league that's got very good basketball teams. I think Galesburg's only lost a couple times. Rock Island, they beat Rock Island a couple. It might have been the following week after Rock Island beat us, and so the traditions there. I think they've struggled, but I think they're starting to get some play for young kids. It's a ball press. Coach Douglas played for Lauren, so there's another connection that you have. When Lauren was at Quincy, Andy Douglas played for him. So, there's just a lot of things about it. And tomorrow night we're excited about it. We need to play. We need to play good people that are going to challenge us and make us play solid basketball for 32 minutes.
Coach, another great win tonight. Before you go, as a member of the class of 1980 who was here last Saturday night for that and talked to you before the game, I want to say thank you again for doing that last week with Coach Wallace and the guys from the class and Coach Flowers, and getting to see some of those people again. That is just a class move, and it's great that we can connect with that tradition that's gone on here for a long, long time.
Well, it's like I said, last week, I consider it a tradition, and I would like to think I'm part of that tradition, but it's not something that I started. Guys before me started, and, you had Lauren that started, but you go clear back to the Duncan Reed era, and I mean, that was in the 60s, and then Lauren went to the 70s, and there's not many people that stick around for 30 years, I'll tell you that.
No, but you're one of them.
Yeah, I'm one of the not so bright ones.
Thank you very much. Congratulations again, Coach. A great win tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night as the Railers take on, I believe, a 7 o'clock tip-off for tomorrow night's varsity game, right?
The sophomores are at 5:30. You're getting these conferences that are making a lot of different changes, and some of them are 5 and 7 or 5 and 6:30. Some are 5:30 and 7, and it's getting to be, I don't know if it's the radios that's controlling the times or whatever, but I can tell you who's controlling the times. But it's a little bit earlier start, so come on out, and hopefully it'll be a great basketball game.
Thank you very much, Coach. Have a good evening. Go home and watch the Illinois game. Kirk Whiteman, you got anything you want to add before we wrap it up here from Roy S. Anderson Gymnasium?
No, I think tomorrow night I would like to see a lot of Railers in the stand here, because I think they're going to witness a really good game, really good competition.
That's going to wrap it up for us here in Lincoln at Roy S. Anderson Gymnasium. Our next broadcast will be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. as the Railers are at home to take on the Blue Devils from Quincy. Our broadcast will begin with the Josh Komnick Schneider Chiropractic Brow Incorporated pregame show at around 6:30. For station manager Jim Ash, for studio producer director Paula Kodak, for Lloyd Kirby, who ran tonight's camera here at Roy S. Anderson Gymnasium and sets us up and does a fantastic job. For Kirk Whiteman, this is Jay Harden. Once again, the final score was Lincoln 68, Mattoon 22. The Railers are now 21-2 and stand undefeated in the Apollo Conference and undefeated here at home. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast, and we know that Railer Nation enjoyed the outcome. We ask that you patronize our sponsors and say thank you for allowing us to bring you Railer basketball. Good evening from Lincoln, Illinois. Everyone, it's time to send you back to the classic rock experience starring Jeff number 2 on the Nighttime Fix 96. Good evening.